SportsChatPlace.com and PickDogs.com. We have got a full show today on Saturday, June 27th, 2020. We've got some NBA news with the schedule coming out, and some teams seem to have an easier schedule than other teams, the way that this kind of worked out. Then we have a NASCAR race today, trading paint segment. Jeff Jeter with us from the shadows of Bristol Motor Speedway. And then, of course, we have UFC tonight on ESPN. The quality of these fights, I have to say, every week seems to get worse and worse. We'll ask the Puck Dogs if that's the case this week. And, of course, we've got soccer picks as well. So not necessarily in that order, but something like that. But we'll get it all together. We're going to, without further ado, we'll bring in Steve Monahan. And, of course, we'll turn the sound up. That always helps. First, that's Chris. That's not Steve. What the hell happened there? Huh, that worked really well. Let me see something. So, my new system. Wow. All right, let's have to do it the old school way. Bring Steve in and fix it. I don't know why it went to this default, but there it is. Steve, good morning.
Good morning, Mitch. What's happening?
As you can see, I've really got this down to a science at this point. So we've got, the NBA released their schedule.
Yeah.
And, some teams seem to have an easier road to the play-in and all that stuff, like the Philadelphia 76ers. And other teams maybe not as easy. What do you think of this NBA schedule? And now that we kind of see it in practice, I mean, when we saw, I have no idea what this means, but there it is. So now that we see it in practice, of course, we're all enthusiastic about it. But of course, when you shake it out to an 8-game schedule and not all 30 teams, you can't just resume. Fair, not fair?
It is what it is. I mean, tough cookies for the teams that have a harder road. But at the end of the day, it's going to be the Milwaukee Bucks versus either the Lakers or the Clippers. Is my guess.
They call him Mr. Chalk. Steve going with the Yankees yesterday, and now coming back with the Bucks versus Lakers or Clippers. Way to stick your neck out there. I think that
I am.
I'm
going out on a limb here. I know that.
I think we saw the Bucks do the Tampa Bay Lightning act last year, so I'm hardly ready to give it to them. And as far as the Clippers and the Lakers, I'll tell you what, man, Houston's got some pretty talented players, and if they can catch fire, they can beat any of those teams.
They do. They'll grant you that.
They have one thing that if you've ever bet on the NBA. One thing that is, so someone's saying they have no sound. I'm going to guess that's on your end because usually if we have no sound, everybody's saying no sound. So that's probably on your end. But that's a good one. Puck Dogs, George Clooney and Brad Pitt. But when we look at the schedule and like I was saying, anyone that's ever bet on basketball, at least over the last few years, knows no one blows up a parlay like the Houston Rockets. Nobody. So
right.
The Houston, the problem that they're going to have is the early round playoff games, the games that they're supposed to win. And then it's like, I mean. We've seen, how many times have we seen it? They'll go into Golden State last year and beat up on the Warriors, and then they'll go home and lose to the Hornets. When the Hornets were drafting second.
I don't see it being any different this year, even with Westbrook.
Are you offended at all that the Washington Wizards are there?
Slightly.
Bit?
Slightly offended.
David Stanton's in the house. Welcome back, David. Haven't seen you in a while. Good to see you. Mike, welcome. Yeah, I mean, I just thought, one of these things doesn't belong there. And I'm going to say that it's, well, it could also be the Phoenix Suns. But, I just think that you have some teams here that, I mean, now that we kind of see that they are doing it this way, it's kind of like, well, maybe, maybe some of these teams shouldn't be there. And I guess record-wise they are, but, maybe they shouldn't.
Right.
You know, we rode the Oklahoma City Thunder this season pretty hard, and you know, do teams like this, are they going to be able to maintain them? You know, it seemed that Memphis was the type of team that every time they got to right at 500, like they would surge like 2 games over 500 and then pull back. It was kind of like that pattern. And that, to me, all goes back to the whole depth thing. It has nothing to do with the overall record. It's kind of like the Blackhawks are in hockey. They kind of no, it's not like just some kind of weird streaky thing. It's like their depth starts to wear out. When they push to that certain level, and it's kind of like they wear down a little bit, and then they come back. Very, very hard to for the good for us, bad for a lot of people.
Yeah, right.
Real bad for them.
And I think it's the same with NHL, Major League Baseball, NBA. I think the cream will rise to the top in the shortened season. Sure, is there a team that can catch fire? Yes, obviously. But again, I'll stick with a Laker, Clipper, Bucks in the East final.
So how about this? They have the Mitch schedule going, right? So we're gonna have to do special shows or do them the night before or something. We got this is Hawaii time. 8:30 Hawaii time, but it's kind of like an all day affair here. I guess they're playing in a couple different venues in Orlando, because you have 8:30, 10 a.m. my time, so that's 4 o'clock Eastern, and starting at 2:30 Eastern, then you have 2 games at 4 o'clock Eastern, then 6:30 Eastern, 8 Eastern, 9 Eastern, right out of the gate. And I know this is what you call, and I've said it all along, the greatest commissioner in the history of sports, Adam Silver. This is a guy that knows what he's doing, okay? Second day in action, okay, so he's got a 6:30 p.m. and a 9 p.m. Eastern time start on opening night, okay? So 6:30, there's nothing. They're Jeopardy showing replays, like the evening Jeopardy. They're showing replays at this point, right? So you're up against them. Now you come back the next day. What's the worst possible game that we could have here? I don't know. Magic versus Nets? Let's throw that thing out at 2:30 in the afternoon Eastern time on a Friday, okay?
Yeah.
How many people's computers, if they even go to the office, right? Because no one's even going to the office, right?
True.
But July 31st, like how many people at home, right, working from home, are going to be watching Orlando versus Brooklyn, versus, a game that normally would probably be the lowest rated game of the night,
Right.
Especially without Kyrie Irving. This is brilliant. This is genius. This was my idea.
Right.
This. I've been saying this for years that baseball should do this.
Well, I think they're playing 88 games in total. I think in the limited time that they'll be playing. So
Saturday night
they'll knock them out one after another, one after another, one after another.
Saturday night at 8:30 p.m. Defending champion Raptors, Lakers. It's like, how hard is this? How hard
It's not
is
hard.
it? Look
You're
at
right.
this, right? Then Sunday, right? Once again, all alone by itself, 2 p.m. Eastern time. Okay, all alone, no, up against nothing else. Nets versus Wizards.
Yep.
Scoop of chocolate, scoop of vanilla. How hard is this?
It's not very hard. You're right.
Not very difficult to figure out how to make your sport internationally mega, right?
Yeah.
So we'll get back with more NBA. This is something that we'll dig a little deeper, and we have NBA TV. On Saturday, August 1st, there's 4 games on ESPN, including that Lakers
Clippers, right?
Miami versus Denver. With a 1 p.m. Eastern time start. Monday, August 3rd, the first game is at 1:30 in the afternoon. It's beautiful. It's Toronto-Miami, too. It's Toronto-Miami. It's a good game.
That's a good game.
It's a good game. I love this.
Right?
I'm all in. They put all the Nets games, at that time slot. How about this one? Wednesday, August 5th, right? 2:30 Eastern time. Utah Jazz versus Memphis Grizzlies. How hard is this? I mean, how hard is this? It's like, nailed it, right?
Yeah.
It's like, no one's going to watch that game. How about if we put it at 2:30 in the afternoon on a Wednesday? Everyone's going to watch it. This is
believe it.
This is like putting the Twins Tigers at 1 o'clock Eastern time, just like it should be on a Wednesday. This is not difficult. They're going to see the ratings on these weekday daytime games, and they're going to come up with every excuse in the world as to why these ratings, everyone was home, No. People love daytime, weekday sports. Big fan.
I agree.
People love, even, Jeter's nodding his head in the background because he knows when they postpone these NASCAR races and show them on Monday, these are the most viewed NASCAR races on the schedule,
Right.
Anyways.
I just wanted your opinion on one thing, college football related. No more Civil War in Oregon versus Oregon State.
I didn't hear that news.
Yeah, they're disbanding that phrase.
Oh.
So.
Oh, the phrase.
The phrase, the Civil War, yeah.
So next will be the Holy War, right?
That's right.
The Holy War, you're next. I don't know, man. It's kind
but it's one of those names you and I, when we met back in '83, the Civil War, I got an airplane flying over my head here in my studio. Sorry.
I was born under the roller coaster at Coney Island. I had a nervous childhood.
I got Newark Airport in my flight path here, so.
All right. I think if they need to change the names or do whatever, I mean, we saw it a few years ago, 10 years ago, it was, the Miami Redhawks,
and St. John's Redmen are now the Red Storm, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Except for the, certain teams that, the Chiefs, the Redskins,
Well, they're next. You can believe that's coming down the pike. I don't think there's any question.
I don't know, because you have this situation in Tallahassee where the Seminole tribe likes Florida State being the Seminole.
That's true.
It's like they love it. They're like, we never got this kind of publicity and made this much money in our lives, until they opened a casino, right?
Right. But I think the teams are going to do it on their own before they get forced to.
It's not slots, it's video bingo.
I think the pressure to do so is going to be really, insurmountable. And I really think it's coming down the pike in a year or two, however long it takes. So that's all.
All right. Well, I'm going to bring in the Puck Dogs. We're going to talk about tonight's UFC card real quick. That didn't work either. Wow, what a disaster this has been on my new switcher. So we'll go. Actually, this guy, and wow, what a mess that became. And this guy. Morning, guys. How you doing?
Morning.
I think Rod is still typing some love letters to his wife. We got UFC tonight. The UFC, the quality of the fights has gone down and down and down every week. I mean, we're not going to pull any punches here. It's like I have enjoyed that UFC has said we're going to go no matter what. We are going to figure out a way to have our fights and do all those things. Hats off, full credit. Reason why maybe there normally is this many stinkers out there. But I don't watch UFC, and maybe the fact that I've seen all these stinkers, maybe that's part of the victory for UFC. But I think we've seen some mismatches out there. We saw a woman that was about 6'5" against a woman that was about 5'2". We've seen just some real quick knockouts, right? Really quick. And I like a quick knockout as much as the next guy, but it's like, when you're made for TV event, like these fights have been, it makes for long pauses in between the fights, and that's something about UFC that they generally don't have. I know on the 12th, they have a big card. Max Holloway's going. But anything tonight that we should be.
Yeah, I think that's more of a product of the UFC going quantity over quality since this COVID stuff happened. And it's like you said, kudos for giving us something to watch and putting out the product. But when the quantity is starting to force fighters to take a fight on 2 weeks notice, not having a proper camp, not having proper training. These quick fights are what you're going to start to see, and unfortunately, that's just the way it is.
Rod, any opinion on the quality of the UFC fights that we're seeing the last few weeks? I know we saw one beauty last week. I mean, we saw as good as it gets, right? Last week, one fight on the card, but we saw some real stinkers.
Yeah, it was a good one last week, back and forth and back and
Emmett,
forth.
Emmett, what was his name?
Yeah, Emmett, and that was a good fight. I look at this card, and these are matches that you have to have because they're like the bottom rung. These guys are like in 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, and in these divisions. So you have to have these fights.
But 7th, 8th, 10th in the division is not bottom rung. I mean, that's up and comer or falling out. It's kind of like that's a pivotal range. The bottom of the barrel, the guys that are 2-16, which is was the record of Steve and I's mutual friend in college's bar fight record. It's like he was 2 and well, the 2 was generous. The 2 was extremely generous. It's like it was definitely a hometown decision in both of those.
One of those buddies that's like, no, don't do that.
If you can hear me, I'm going to say he didn't have any victories.
They had a sign.
Maybe a draw.
So across the street from Fenway Park is a bar called Cask and Flagon, and they had a sign in there. Michael Gibbons is not allowed in here. Yep.
That's a true story.
Oh, it's true. Two best Fenway Park bar stories. Our friend Rob Peters, who was Manny Pacquiao's bodyguard, he still is Manny's bodyguard if Manny fights again, but he was a bouncer at a bar called Who's on First that before they banned happy hours in Boston had the best happy hour. And he's a pretty big guy, and he was throwing some drunk guy out, and the guy goes to grab him by the tie, and he's wearing a clip-on. And the guy's standing there with the tie in his hand, and all I could see from across the entire bar is the guy mouthing, "Oh, shit." The two bouncers that you would not want to tussle with of our friends, Rob Peters, Mitch Tomadio. You don't want to be Mitch. No. So, with the Puck Dogs here, Scott Shaughnessy, who was drafted number 4 overall in the NHL draft as a goon by the Quebec Nordiques, was not allowed to play intramural hockey anymore because Tomadio packaged him.
He did.
That's
a true story.
I mean, it was not. It was a fight. They would have stopped, and they stopped. It was like, and this guy was known as like the toughest guy in college hockey. I mean, he got crushed.
He did.
But anyways, man, back to tonight's fights. Anything on this card that looks extremely attractive?
Look at that excitement!
From a betting standpoint.
Yeah. For me, one of the fights I'm looking at is the co-main event. I'm taking Mickey Gall plus 250 against Mike Perry. I'm not laying minus 335 with a fighter in Perry's lost 5 of his last 7 fights, and now he's completely ditched his corner group, and the only person in his corner tonight's going to be his girlfriend. So, I can't. Perry's not gonna. I think Perry's
really
gonna take him down. Gall's gonna.
UFC. They're really digging.
Yeah, I think Gall's gonna be focused. Come in. I'll take a shot with Gall money line. I'll also put a little bit on Gall via submission at plus 450.
Kind of an overlay pick there, I would say. With that scenario. Rod, who do you like tonight?
I'm going to go the other way. I think Mike Perry knocks this guy out clean into next year. I I have no faith in Mike Gall at all. His last fight or his last win when he beat Diego Sanchez. He's no. I'll take Mickey Perry by KO. And like,
Rod's got some connection issues over there.
I think Mike Perry knocks him out quick.
What else do you
Mike
like?
Perry by KO.
What else do you like on this card? Anything? Any meat on the bone?
I'm going the Louis Pena fight versus Worthy division here. I think Pena easily wins this fight. He's a minus 260, but I'm going to put him into my birdcage here. I think he's just add a little parlay piece to make my birdcage.
I'm going to go to the main event. I think Dustin Poirier wins by decision again at plus 325 against Dan Hooker. I think this is going to just be a really good striking matchup. I think they're going to go back and forth, but I don't see a finish in this fight. I think it goes the full 5 rounds.
So this could be so strikers. It's going to be a bloodbath then. That's what we're looking at.
Yeah, and these two don't like each other either. There's been a lot of jaw jacking back and forth in the build up to this fight. I mean, Hooker's got to win over Gilbert Burns, who we saw beat the crap out of Tyron Woodley, but Poirier's just faced a murderer's road last year. He's got 2 wins over Max Holloway, Anthony Pettis, Justin Gaethje, who's facing Khabib for the title. I like Poirier. Steel sharpens steel here, and I like it via decision plus 325. I think another prop I like in that fight, though, I like it to go over 2.5 rounds at minus 145.
Rod, anything else?
For me, I'm going to the main event, and I'm going to take Poirier. I'm going to take him by knockout. I think he knocks out Hooker here. I think he's just going to enforce his will. He's going to push Hooker up against the fence. And pretty good. So give me Poirier by KO at plus 120.
All right. Any bird cages? Anything else going
Not
on,
close.
or that's it?
My one long shot is in the green fight. That's so long. Yeah. I'll give you my bird cage, and then I'll give you my long shot. My bird cage in the UFC, I'm taking Poirier by KO at plus 120, Mike Perry by KO minus 150, and Pena minus 260. Parlay those 3 together should give you about a plus 400.
Chris, anything to wrap it up?
Yeah, no birdcage for me. I might just put those fights individually.
All right, so thank you guys for the UFC picks. We'll see you guys in just a bit for the soccer picks and, of course, for our wrap-up segment. We're going to bring in Jeff Jeter. We're going to trade some paint with Jeff and Rod. We got 2 races on today's NASCAR schedule. Jeff, good morning. How are you?
Doing well this morning.
Well, we're going to cut right to the chase before we get to the race, and it's going to be really quick and direct, but any opinion? Noose? No noose?
It is obviously,
flags,
it's a despicable thing. I mean, I'm glad to see NASCAR and the community come out. Obviously behind Bubba on
and what about
Monday.
Me? What about me? and me too.
Yeah.
I put my ass out there.
It was just interesting. Like you were talking about the other day, it's interesting that's been the only one they found, like this news thing, so.
I should go take a picture of my garage pole rope. It looks nothing.
Yeah.
It's got a little piece of plastic hanging by a string. That's what it looks like.
I mean, obviously Talladega and NASCAR, they're going to fix that, and they're going to, make sure nothing is like this out in any of the other garage facilities, I would imagine. So,
Any surprise the way the drivers just rallied behind Bubba on this one?
Not at all.
Surprise at all.
But you got to understand, these guys, it's like they work with each other basically week in and week out. They're family.
Bubba seems to be generally well liked anyway by the guys.
Mm-hmm.
Like he seems to be like that he was like Dale Earnhardt Jr. Has always been like close with Bubba. So it's like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, you have the most popular driver, you know.
Yeah.
All right, let's just get back to the race then. Let's go to today's races. We have a truck series race. Who's the best mother trucker in the field?
Well, right now, early in the week, I found Ross Chastain at plus 650. His price has actually gone down. He's been bet on a little bit, but he's going to be pulling double duty this weekend. He will be racing the Xfinity race as well tomorrow. But I like Ross Chastain at plus 650 to win. And I also like, as more of a long shot, I like Todd Gilliland at plus 2,000. He's had quite a few top 5 finishes this year and put himself in position to win. So Todd Gilliland in a 38 truck today, I like.
What kind of track is Pocono? Is it just a shorter track? It's a longer track? Are we going laps or miles? You know, like all these NASCAR things.
And Pocono it's a very interesting track. It's a big 2.5 mile triangle. They call it the Tricky Triangle.
So
all
it's not
three
like
straightaways.
I thought they called it the tri-oval when they're like that. So it's not an oval; it's just a straight triangle. So there are hairpin turns.
Turn 1's a hairpin. Turn 2 is more like an Indianapolis, kind of more of a 90-degree turn, and then turn 3 is a flat, long, sweeping turn. So
like Kyle Busch, we saw effectively touch Chase Elliott's bumper in earlier this season. He might be good in this sort of race, right? This might be his sort of thing because he kind of is the guy on the Dirty Tricks committee these days, right? So it's like this could set up for him because when you have hairpin turns, you have guys slowing down. And when guys are slowing down, other guys could be speeding up, you know? So sounds like this could be a good one. Just throwing it out there. Rod, what are you looking at for the truck series contest today?
I'm with Jeff as well. I like Ross Chastain. And I also like Austin Hill at plus 600. Those are the two guys I'm going to roll with today, Austin Hill and Ross Chastain, to win this race. Also, I'm going to go a little bit against Jeff there. I'm going to take Grant Enfinger versus Todd Gilliland. And I'm going to take Grant Enfinger to beat him, minus 130. If Jeff likes Todd, I'm sure he'd like the other guy, Todd Gilliland, in that matchup. And I'm going to go Grant Enfinger to beat Todd Gilliland. I'm also going to take Grant Enfinger to beat Ben Rhodes at minus 115 in this race in the head-to-head.
So let's go to the Cup Series race. So we have back-to-back Cup Series races, 2 days in a row Cup Series races, which, I only have, one thing to say about this for the NASCAR owners. This is expensive, right? This can be an expensive weekend, right? I mean, these cars are not cheap, and, you're on a track that has, like Jeff said, some tough turns in there. This could be really expensive, I mean, like, really expensive.
Well, they're...
How many backup cars do a team have? Like, say something happens today, would they be racing the same cars tomorrow, or do they have, like, a whole nother set of cars? And, like, what if they notice something today and they need to, so obviously tomorrow they can make an adjustment. It's like, I know, but NASCAR, like, highly regulates and inspects these cars because, right, people... There's restrictions as to what you can actually do with this thing, right? So, NASCAR's constantly checking just how much can they adjust the car,
Yeah, and the whole plan was to everybody to run the same car and the same motor for both races this weekend. That's why the distances are shortened. Both these races were usually 400 miles. Today's race is 325 miles, 130 laps. Tomorrow's is 350. Miles, that is. And so, basically they only had to bring one backup car with them, and so it's really actually cheaper, to go there, right? Because you can't bring out a backup car in the middle of the race and get another one,
If it makes it in one piece, if you make it out of there in one piece, that's a big if. Because, I mean, there's a good percentage of people that watch NASCAR just to see the damage.
And with Pocono, I mean, with it being a 2.5 mile track, it's as big as Daytona, but they're not in a big pack. They're not going to be drafting one another.
Where is this track located?
They get spread out pretty well.
Where's it located? Pocono?
Pennsylvania.
In Pennsylvania. Okay, so they're probably not losing out on as many beer sales as they did last week at Talladega, but still probably plenty. Rod, who are you looking at today at Pocono for the 325? Is that what it is?
325. Yeah,
325.
325.
Is this the
130 laps.
Is this the organic 325?
Yeah, totally.
So all the cars are made of cornstarch, like some of the golf tees out there. Like I play with these golf tees. People don't believe like they're made of cornstarch. They're called Echo tees. They're super popular now, and it's like
paper mache. It's a little lighter. They go faster.
Hit a 265-yard drive down the middle, and makes a great pan sauce thickener. Go. But anyways, Rod, what do you like today?
Guys, I'm looking at today. I'm looking at driver who's been there all year. Give me Chase Elliott at plus 675. He's been hanging around the top all year. I think he can be there again. And I'm going to go with the guy I went with last week. Give me Blaney again. Blaney's won this race here at Pocono before, so he's very well. He knows the track, knows how to beetle in and out. First race. This is his first ever victory in NASCAR Cup Series. So give me Ryan Blaney again at plus 1100, and I'll also take Chase Elliott at plus 675. My two guys. Top five, I'm going to go with Tyler Reddick, who's been racing really well. Give me Tyler Reddick to finish in the top five at plus 450.
Jeff, who are you looking at today in the 325?
Yeah, definitely like Denny Hamlin at plus 800 for the victory today. Also a top three out of Denny at plus 190. And really another guy I was kind of circling here was William Byron at plus 2,000. Willie B, man, he was on he's had some good some success here at Pocono, and that price, I mean, when we're lacking value this weekend. That's pretty good right there for his price. And I also like William Byron at top five at plus 300. And I agree with Rod. I like Blaney to top five at plus 165. And in a matchup, I like Hamlin over Truex at minus 115.
Okay. So we'll be back. We'll have Jeff back in just a second. We're going to switch gears here, go back, bring in Chris Ruffalo again, and we're going to go over the soccer for today. So Jeff, we'll see you in just a bit for our wrap-up section. So think about what you're going to say when you have your time to yourself. Chris, welcome back. We got soccer on tap. Not a ton left here, right? So let's make it sort of quick. What are you looking at today in soccer action?
Well, there's two Italian games at 1:30. I like Cagliari and Torino to draw. I think this just has 1-1 written all over it. Two sides in the lower half of the table, so I'll take a draw there. I'll put a little bit on 1-1 as a correct score as well. And at 3:45, I like Lazio win to 0 against Fiorentina. Lazio's just a better team, and I expect them to bounce back. They blew a 2-goal lead to Atalanta in the midweek game, and Fiorentina just tied last place Brescia, and I don't like that. So I'll take Lazio win to 0 there.
Rod, what are you looking at?
For me, I only got the one left on the board. I shared my soccer picks in the Facebook group earlier because there were a couple games that I wanted that were early this morning. The only one I got left is Man U. I need Man U I think they're playing Norwich.
Yep.
Man U. Yeah. I got Man U -1. You can take Man U -1.5 now at plus 115. I think they win by 2 goals. I'd put a little bit on 3-1.
All right, so we're gonna bring everyone back in here to our wrap-up segment. Welcome back, everyone. So this is where we kind of go around and everyone just says what they want to say. They can either recap their picks or just say something about sports in general, like talk about the hockey that we haven't heard much about. But Chris, lead us off.
All right, well, speaking of the hockey, we'll go back to it. We watched the NHL draft lottery last night, and for the longest time I thought the NHL had it right, where up until 2012. A team outside of the top 5 won the lottery. You move up a few spots, but it doesn't change the draft order. And we saw a placeholder team win last night. So, I mean, one of the 8 losing teams from the qualification round can have a chance at the number 1 overall pick. I mean, I don't know. I'm just flabbergasted. I mean, you can give a team like Pittsburgh or Edmonton, we've talked about possibly losing one of those 5-12 matchups, and they get the first overall pick and get a guy like Lafreniere who's slated to go first overall. I just think this is the one year that maybe the NHL kind of dropped the ball on how to handle the draft lottery.
All right, Rod, you're up.
I still kind of like that. I think Ottawa still got out of their and that NHL draft lottery, so they're still going to come out there very good with 3rd and 5th. For me, I'm going to give you that one long shot in the UFC fight that I didn't get to get. Vellante versus Maurice Green in the heavyweight division. Heavyweight fight here. Bigger guy, bigger power. I think I'm going to go with he pounds the guy pretty good, and then instead of doing the hammer fist thing, I think he submits him. So give me Maurice Green by submission at plus 1,000 as my long shot on tonight's UFC. And I think it's got a really good shot to get her done.
Jeter?
Yeah, I mean, didn't have much. Get back and look at the picks. One I forgot to throw in, I do like in the truck race here just a little bit. I also like Todd Gilliland to win at plus 2,000, and I also like him to top 3 at plus 450. That's the only one I forgot to add in to the picks. But other than that, probably expect just a touch of a weather delay up there. I just was on Twitter. They got the track drying equipment out at Pocono right now, so I have to deal with that a little bit. But the weather's looking good for the rest of the afternoon. So other than that, just be ready to watch some racing with a sense of urgency today. Truck race is only 60 laps, and the Cup race is only 130. So these are some shorter races, and on these restarts, expect them to fan out 4 and 5 wide. Got to get a little crazy, on these restarts, and then get spread out. So other than that, good luck today.
Steve?
I don't want to be Debbie Downer, but I am getting more concerned about the corona spike. I just read this morning 15 out of the 27 major league markets, there's a spike in corona. And again, the NBA's down in Florida, and Florida's a hotbed right now. I want to be as optimistic as I possibly can, but I just wanted to make that note that it's a concern, and you know what? It could blow everything up at any time, but I'm going to remain positive, but I just want to, bring that to the attention that hopefully we get sports back, on track and as scheduled as all the sports seem to be. So that's it.
On that note, riots and rallies and all kinds of that stuff at a 2-week incubation period, it only makes sense. But anyways, what I want to talk about just real quickly is Phil Mickelson goes out yesterday at 50 years old and shoots a 63. one of my favorite guys and, one of my favorite golfers of all time. Not because he's accomplished more than everybody else, and not because he was a childhood prodigy, and not because he's a righty whose father taught him, and because he was the mirror image, he plays lefty, and, all the great stories that go along Phil Mickelson. But here's a great guy from top to bottom, a family guy, passes up, playing in the U.S. Open and stuff like that to go to his kid's graduation. No bullshit with this guy. This is who I am. Phil Mickelson had a 2-shot lead on the final hole of the U.S. Open and gunned it for the green. I have a strict no layup policy myself, so I certainly know exactly how he feels. Of course, I don't play for the type of stakes that Phil does, but I'll tell you what, when they interviewed Phil after the match and he lost the U.S. Open, which would have completed the career Grand Slam for him, he said, "That's my game, and I'm not apologizing to you for it." And I thought that just pretty much summed up this guy, and I tell you, anyone that can go through life, put it all on the line like that, and be unapologetic, it's the same thing that won him the British Open when nobody saw it coming, and it's the same thing that's cost him U.S. Opens and Masters and everything else. But I'll tell you what, he is who he is. His wife had cancer. He stood by her side the whole way. No, ifs, ands, or buts. This guy, had the opportunities to probably claim the sex addict thing, to probably do all of those same things, but he never did any of that. And I'll tell you, he did it his way, and at 50 years old, Champions Tour, look out, this guy's going to probably
he's going to crush it.
Maybe you can even imagine what that's going to look like. But anyways, guys, welcome back. Say what you
He's
say.
Just throwing. Mickelson's throwing darts, man.
Well,
his iron play is unreal. He's just dropping it. It's just
well, Phil Mickelson changed
like,
the way people play golf. The lob wedge was a club in the bag before Phil started playing, and now, but nobody had one. But Phil basically invented that lob wedge, and back in the day, and you could find this on YouTube, and I don't know how many of you have seen this or not, because it's been a while since he did it, where he's facing the fairway from the bunker, hits the ball over his back shoulder like this, over his head with a lob wedge into the hole. It's one, and it's not like one of those things that they did like a million takes or anything like that. That's how good this guy is, and it's like how many people were hitting the flop shot before Phil. How many people were hitting, these other kind of shots? And like I said, he's super aggressive, and that's his game. And it's just, Phil's never going to hit, the 3-iron into the middle of the fairway, and kind of hit a 9-iron into the middle of the green. He's just not going to do that. He's going to take out the big boy. He's going to smack it as hard as he possibly can. And he's thinking, using that flop shot, in his next shot and, tapping in for birdie, even though he's got a 3-shot lead. And, it's not John Vandeveld choking away the British Open here. This is Phil Mickelson, with his private jet, When you get into that, I'd say, we all think about all these golfers and how much money they make and all that stuff. But really, it's only about the top 20 or 30 that really make the money. Everybody else is basically starving from event to event, They maybe get $500,000, $400,000 from their sponsor every year. But think about it. You got to travel from event to event, stay in hotels, pay for your caddy. When you do win, your caddy gets 10% of that. It's, it's a very, very tough way to make a living. Very tough way to make a living. But
I just wanted to say one thing about Phil Mickelson. So I've had the opportunity probably to see him. I would say I've been to about 10 PGA events in my area, and I had the privilege of seeing Mickelson win his PGA championship at Baltusrol, New Jersey. He has his detractors, he has his critics, but I tell you what, he is genuine. And when I tell you the New York, New Jersey area, when he comes to town, man, do we rally around him. I think, to Mitch's point, he's a genuinely good guy. Good character guy.
Not perfect.
So,
not perfect.
No, not by any stretch. He's had some, missteps, but, we're all human. We all do, right? But I just wanted to piggyback on Mitch. I'm a big Mickelson fan, and Christ, it'd be great if he could not, get a U.S. Open at age 50. That would be awesome to get his career Grand Slam.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. We'll have the same crew tomorrow. And yeah, I really wish they would have done. They did a March Madness restart. I think college sports is actually going to have a little bit tougher time starting than I might have originally thought, but maybe not. And I think back to Steve's point about Corona, we're only hearing the bad news. We're not hearing any of the more positive news, and we're not seeing the deaths and hospitalizations that we saw before, because the most of these bigger numbers, and I'm not saying there's never been a 30-year-old person that died of Corona. I'm not saying that, and I'm not saying that I'm here to explain to somebody's the parents of someone of a younger person that died of Corona. I'm not here to to say any of those things. What I'm saying, when you look at the overall general picture, most of the people that have died from Corona are high risk, and it's the people that have Corona in this wave just are not necessarily that same people that we saw it the first time through. So I don't know. I think when we saw the rallies, when we saw the protests, when we saw the demonstrations, when we saw the flat screen TVs and Game Boys and all that other stuff, floating around the streets, I didn't see a lot of guys wearing masks. So and I don't think a mask is going to save you at that point anyway.
No, the mask is only supposed to prevent you from giving it to people. It's not meant to protect you from it.
I'm not a doctor.
It's only from you spreading it.
I'll tell you what, man.
And for me, the reason why
they didn't even like me walking in front of BU Med School. They didn't even like me walking near the place. it's like I mentioned when I was in college that Mikhail Gorbachev, they wanted to remove the red dot. BU Med School, when we were there, wanted to remove the red thing from his forehead. It was they didn't even like me talking about it. It's what the hell business do you have talking about this? It's there's one person that's not going to med school anytime soon. He's sitting right here.
The good thing, I was watching a interview yesterday on TV with a financial guy, and he's like, we've already been through one spike with this coronavirus, as far as the market goes, in general, and if we can get through that part, I think we're going to, that's part of that good news. It's just not really broadcast, I don't think, a lot,
No, it's alarmist. But anyways, let's wrap this up, and we'll talk to you guys tomorrow. We'll have the same crew. More NASCAR, no UFC, maybe some soccer, maybe a closer look on Tuesday at the NBA schedule.